World War I came to a close in 1918 with the Treaty of Versailles, which redrew the map of Europe, dissolving much of the Austro-Hungarian Empire and reducing the size of Germany. Territories that were previously part of large empires suddenly became independent nations. Composers found themselves in new countries like Czechoslovakia, Hungary, and Poland that were eager to establish their own national identity and heritage. You take a composer like Bartók or Kodály, and if they had been born just a few years earlier at the time of Liszt, their sound would have been radically different. I think of Liszt as a Viennese composer, even though he is very clearly Hungarian. I would never identify Bartók or Kodály as Viennese or Austro-Hungarian. They are very much Hungarian composers. And a lot of that is because, again, you have this trend that's happening at the time of composers going out into the hills or into the countryside and doing their amateur ethnomusicological research and collecting these tunes and incorporating these rhythms, these modalities, these texts into their music. It was not just the empires that had disintegrated. The aristocracy and its entrenched order were dismantled by war's end. Art song of this period reflects this unraveling of the social and moral strictures of Old World Europe. This newfound social liberation was embedded in Leos Janáček's Diary of One Who Disappeared, drawing on folk poems that were published in a Czech newspaper. The song cycle depicts the story of a love affair between a young peasant and a gypsy woman. He feels very uncomfortable about feeling such attraction, because he's having a sexual awakening as a good Christian boy, and having a sexual awakening with the wrong person, someone who is other. And so there are a lot of themes here that kind of get at the things we've been talking about, the sort of seeds and the beginnings of the dangers of nationalism and this idea of what's appropriate and who is who. The period after the war was an era of great uncertainty. Nations, new and old, struggled to reconcile their histories with a present that would have been unimaginable only 20 years prior. This new paradigm inspired a more populist view of identity, one that centered around common people and common experiences. These are all ideals that I think are wonderful and fantastic. This idea of freedom. But inherent in freedom is chaos, and inherent in defining oneself, one has to define the other, and that is where it starts to get challenging. And ultimately, I think the greatest naivete about it is this idea that anybody is just one thing. Identity is a multi-layered, very complex thing to grapple with. And so this idea that we are Czech, we are Hungarian, it's yes, but also, are you rich? Are you poor? What religion do you practice? These things get very complicated.